start with a map of the Battle of Germantown. Now, historically, Washington had divided his forces up into several groups, coming down different roads, attacking from all directions. That was a bit ambitious. So this time, I'm bringing everyone down the road here. This is the old York Road. They're going to get down here and attack up like this. The two blocks of Minutemen are going to come across and occupy these two heights on the south side of Germantown. Bivouac here, we have the British forces under Howe. We've got the Queen's Rangers here at Vandering's Mill, guarding the crossing of the Wissahickon River above the Schuylkill River. Here, holed up in Chew House, are a detachment of grenadiers. Now, that's proper. But since they're all bottled up here in Chew House, I stick this up like this. It doesn't change anything rules-wise or anything like that. It just looks cooler. Now, the British main army has 3 blocks of skirmishers out front. Then you've got Cornwallis's troops here, Kniphausen's troops here, Beggs and artillery in back. And until turn 3, when Kniphausen arrives, and later turn 5, when Cornwallis arrives, Howe is running everybody. And by writing orders, it means they need to make a leadership role to change the orders. Let us begin with the 0-hour turn. The first turn, with only the colonial forces, will see the militia heading towards Germantown, while the rest of Washington's armies head south. Now you can immediately see the advantage of entering on different roads because the army is very stretched out if it all has to come in one line. But this is a dark and foggy night, and the fog will last all the way through the day. Trying to coordinate troops from different directions is a near impossible task. Now we begin with turn 1. Now I'm not going to draw any British chits until they have reason to suspect something is afoot. Remember, it's very early morning and very foggy. Vision is down to just 1/3 of an infantry movement stick. That's not very much. I will set my divider to 1/3, and that will help me quickly determine what troops can see. The militia forces continue to move and take up their positions. Now the British troops occupying Chew House are just out of range, and they see nothing. And the rest of Washington's forces move down the old York Road. And now we move on to turn 2. The British are still unaware. First off, Armstrong's Pennsylvanians find their position on the hill. Now Washington has sent a regiment of colonial regulars, represented by these detachments, with each militia. He doesn't have a lot of faith in the militia. But now the colonial regulars are spotted by this detachment of Abercrombie's light. A muffled popping of musketry can be detected by the British troops over a mile south of that position. General Sullivan continues moving forward. Now here in the mid-morning, end of turn 2, the long colonial column has finally completely entered the map. Here we have Washington himself. He has just entered. Now down here we can see that the British troops were just able to glimpse colonial troops to the east. So now Howe has reports of firefight to the north and also a rumor of troops on his right. How will he respond? Now this turn, Kniphausen and his Beggs will be entering along the Germantown Pike. Now Howe's chit has been drawn, and the first thing that happens is the Queen's Rangers go shooting up around the left to try and find out what's going on to the north. His forces advance towards Germantown, and they will stop when they come within sight of the rebels. Now I would like the colonials to start attacking immediately, but their first orders are to form up east of Nicetown. And at this point, Washington's way back here. There's no reason to do anything different. Sullivan follows orders. Now here is Greene, but Greene has already been drawn. He was drawn earlier and could move nowhere and do nothing because Sullivan hadn't moved yet. So there's a typical snafu, and now the colonial forces are broken up. But there's confusion on the British right as well. Kniphausen has discovered the colonial troops. He rides up to take command. He'll write orders next turn. At this point, the colonial troops, Sullivan in particular, are not aware that the British Beggs are right here. They're still waiting for Greene to come along and form up, begin their surprise attack. And in the fog, more desultory pop, pop, pop of musketry can be heard, but no troops have been ordered to attack at this point. Sensing something is going on, but unable to determine what, Washington rides forward. It's midday. The fog is cloying and thick. The militia continue to hold their ground. He gives them new orders. He wants to call them to form up and attack here. The Queen's Rangers continue their ride around. They reach Chew House, Cliveden, as it's known, and consult with the Grenadiers. Howe orders the attack. That actually was a change of orders. Let's roll for it. On a 5 or 6, those orders were not ready yet. A 3. Nope, they're ready. That's what happens. Now we draw Kniphausen. This is critical. Can he get his command together? Can he give them orders? On a 5 or 6, he fails. A 1. No, he is Johnny on the spot. He needs to drive them away from the Yorktown pike. Riding furiously, Washington finds the head of his column and redirects them around. Alright, now we're at turn 4 combat. And there is combat. Around Germantown we have British skirmishers fighting colonial militia. The colonial troops do 2 hits, the militia does 1. So the skirmishers have fallen back into the main line. Now 1 hit counts as 2 hits on militia. They flip to spent and retreat. The regiment of Continentals falls back with them to try and hold them together. Over here, same setup, this time Armstrong's Pennsylvanians. They do better, driving the skirmishers in and holding their position. You know what? I made a mistake. These militia were on a hill. In the British detachment, the skirmishers only rolled a 4. That would not have been sufficient to do a hit. My bad. But now we go to the second round of combat. The militia has cover on the hilltops. Smallwood's militia. The British roll 2 5s. The militia a 4 and a 6. Both sides do 2 hits. The British fail to sweep the hill, but the militia have melted in combat. There's a few militia and a few Continentals that remain. To their left, Colonials roll a 4, the British roll a 6. The British become spent, but they drive the Pennsylvanians from the hilltop. Armstrong's forces fall back. Now so far, these troops have done exactly what Washington wanted them to do. Distract a portion, if not all, of the British Army. Down here, east of Nice. Now it's called Nicetown. I wonder if they were based on the French city of Nice. We should call it Nicetown, but Americans tend to call things as they look in American spelling. So we're going to say Nicetown. British assault on Americans in cover. These are Stern's Hessians. The Hessians do no hits. Sullivan's, no, those are Green's. Green's troops do 3 hits. That is a devastating loss. Now south of them here, we have, again, I've got my own cool label, Bagans of the Shear. The plucky hobbits are going to save the British bacon. Because saving bacon's what hobbits do. The Colonials roll a 4 and a 6, that's 2 hits. Bagans of the Shear rolls a 5 and a 6, that's 2 hits. Oh, I didn't realize this. They were fighting another special unit. This is Strand's Minnesotans. Those are my own personal troops. But Sullivan had 2 blocks there. There's still 1 block holding. And actually Kniphausen sent his bags off into the woods. We want to get them off the road, try to hide them. That's the end of turn 4. We now are beginning with turn 5. Turn 5, Cornwallis shows up with the Grenadiers. Now this is getting really cool. If you can imagine this, what do you think each of these commanders would be picturing happening? You're in the fog. This is all the farther you can see. The somewhat significant colonial forces encountered at Germantown are falling apart, as Howe would expect them to. But there's suddenly all this noise in the south. Kniphausen, as far as he's concerned, is encountering the entire colonial army. And he's wondering where Howe and the British household troops under Matthews are. He's sending riders out, he's saying, hey, dude, we got a problem down here. Next turn, Cornwallis will be arriving in at the bottom of all this. Now in early afternoon we have a most interesting situation. The thick fog still cloys. Visibility is reduced to 1/3 of a movement stick. Now before chit draw begins, the various commanders have a chance to write new orders. Howe will change his limit of advance from here to here. Washington can't really change the orders for the militia because he can't reach them. There's no way orders could get to them. He doesn't really know what's going on up here. The militia were asked to hold here and then fall back. Sullivan has received intelligence. They say the British bags are right here, or at least they're in the woods, and they desperately want to get a hold of those supplies. His line of advance will now change from here to here. Sullivan's command rating is a 4. He needs to roll 4 or less to react. 4. This he does. Greene will be pushing west, taking control of the Germantown pike, and then moving up. While all that is affected, Washington will try to control any movement moving down south from Germantown. If Watson is drawn first, he needs to roll 4 or less to change his orders. 5. He is unable to change his orders. His orders were to attack to the east. Now this isn't saying he wants to change orders, he's trying to change orders, and he just can't get the orders changed. What this is saying is he still is going to try to push the colonials back. Those are his orders, that's what he has to do. He sends word to his bags to move farther into the woods. But now if he wants his bags to move this way, while the rest of his corps is moving this way, that's a different order. That's a different limit of advance, which he can do, but now it's going to take another command roll. That one he succeeds on. Armstrong's Pennsylvanians let's see if they can change their orders and fall back. No. Armstrong believes he can retake that hill. Smallwood's tiny force, this is just a detachment. It's what's left of the regulars and any of his militia that might have hung around. They hold. And now it's Cornwallis's turn. Cornwallis has given orders to turn and move south. So he can go back this far. They can't end movement in the line of fire, and Cornwallis arrives. He marches up the road, but he soon comes within 1/3 of the colonial troops and must come out of line. The Grenadiers hit Sullivan's men in the flank. Or at least they would, but Sullivan hasn't activated yet, which means that he's got an upper hand in the situation. Greene is drawn, and he himself orders a flank attack. And finally, Sullivan is drawn. Now here he is in the thick of it. He's being attacked from the south. Ordinarily I'd be saying, hey, pull these guys out of here. But his orders say, attack this way. So what he's going to do is come crashing down on the Grenadiers. The spent Minnesotans will be guarding the bags. And last drawn is Washington. He forms up his defense. Greene and Sullivan need time to take care of the British to the south. Now we move to combat. Round 1, Greene's attack. The British are flanked. They rolled 6-4-4. These 2 4s miss, so they've got 1 hit. The Colonials rolled 3-3-1. These 2 3s become 4s, so that's 2 hits. 2 hits will cause the British to fall back. The colonial troops become spent. First round combat here, the odds are reversed. This time the colonial troops are outflanked. The British rolled 2 4s. British become 5s, so that's 2 hits. The 2 becomes a 3, that doesn't count. So the British have 2 hits. The colonials rolled a 1 and a 2 and a 5. The 5 becomes a 4 because they're outflanked. 4 still hits. So the colonial troops have 1 hit. It causes the British to retreat. The British did 2 hits. The colonial troops retreat. Now it's a flanking attack on the Grenadiers. Now the Grenadiers have cover because they're uphill, but they're flanked. So the Americans add 1, subtract 1. The colonial troops attack without modifier. The Grenadiers, because they're being flank attacked, subtract 1. The Grenadiers have nothing, no hits. They roll 1, 2, and 3, and they're subtracting 1. Colonial troops rolled a 2, 3, and 6. They're staying even. The 6 hits. The Grenadiers are elite, so they ignore that first hit. However, they don't want to continue this battle at poor odds. They fall back and regroup. Now it's turn 6. The afternoon wears on. Still, they can see nothing in the fog. Cornwallis is going to attempt to assign his grenadiers to Kniphausen's command and then ride north. He's got to roll 4 or less. 2. He does it. His grenadiers are under Kniphausen, and Cornwallis will ride north to find Howe. Greene wants to change his orders and have his troops push further west. He rolled a 5. That will not suffice. But his limit of advance is at Nicetown. Now, to occupy that limit of advance, he'll be within field of fire of the British unit. So he'll probably have to advance beyond his limit of advance. Let's see how this all falls out. Kniphausen is drawn first. Now, I forgot to change Kniphausen's orders. Kniphausen still has orders to attack east. Greene's troops push west. Cornwallis rides north, meets with Howe, updates him, and Howe's troops move forward. Hearing the noise farther off, the dragoons race ahead. Armstrong dresses his line. Without the orders rules, I'd turn and attack that in the flank, but that's not his orders. His orders are to hold that hill, and that's what he does. Washington knows his line has to hold, but this detachment of regulars, having prevented Grant from moving farther than this, fall back. Sullivan's troops attack west. And now late afternoon combat. On the hill we have a Continental detachment and the dragoons. Detachment gets 1 dice, dragoons get 2 dice. The detachment is able to hold, and the Queen's Rangers fall back. Down here we have Knox's artillery. The British Household Guards are attacking, and they've got a line of skirmishers in front. Knox feeds the British skirmishers some grapes, and they are eliminated. And here we have Nash's North Carolinians defending against J. Grant's assaulting troops. The Colonials have rolled 4-4-6. That's 3 hits. The British have rolled 3-3-4, and they're subtracting 1 because the Colonials are uphill. The Colonials destroy the British attack. And now Knox's artillery facing Matthew's Household Guard, the cream of the British Empire. British roll 1-1-2, dismal, no hits. Knox gets 1, 2, and 6. So he has 1 hit. That 1 hit is absorbed by the British elite. Here we have Greene's attack on Kniphausen's unit. The British do 1 hit, they have a 6. The Colonials rolled 2 6s. Hot dice, the Colonial guns are deadly accurate. Greene's unit becomes spent, but the British are destroyed. And now Bacon's of the Shure, the plucky hobbits, are attacking east. This has been a disastrous turn so far for the British. Will it change now? 1-1-4, the British get 1 hit. 3-5-6, the Americans get 2 hits. The British attack collapses. Dead hobbits lay everywhere. It's terrible. And now the Grenadier attack on Sullivan's men. Each doing a hit. The Grenadiers absorb 1 hit. Second round of combat. The Grenadiers will not give up. 2-3-5 and 1-3-5. They've both done 1 hit. The combat is indecisive, but the Americans have another block to move up. The Americans have won that round of combat. They hold the ground. And Matthew's assault on Knox's artillery. Americans roll 4-4. Excuse me, the Colonials, they're not Americans yet. The Colonials roll 4-4. The British roll 6-4. It's 2 hits on each. Remember, they've already absorbed 1 with their elite status. No, they haven't. Not these guys. The skirmishers took it on the chin the first time. So they absorb 1 and then flip to spent. Colonials take 2, which flips them to spent and ordinarily retreats them. But artillery, if artillery is unsupported, which it is here, it's just eliminated. Now at the end of turn 6, it's about dinner time. The British have sustained 4 infantry block losses. The Colonials have lost 1 block of militia. 4 infantry block losses breaks the British Army. Washington has won Germantown. The British will have to fall back and cede Philadelphia. That was hot dice for the Colonials, and this was another very good game.